Imagine a moment where asking for intimacy doesn't feel awkward, pressured, or confusing, but instead flows naturally, filled with mutual trust and desire. What if there was a simple psychological shift that could transform how you connect with a woman, making closeness not something you have to chase, but something she wants to share with you? Emotional safety is the foundation of intimacy, especially for women, because it creates the space where vulnerability can exist without fear of judgment or rejection. When a woman feels emotionally safe with a man, she doesn't have to second-guess his intentions, wonder if she's being objectified, or feel like she's being pushed into something she's not ready for. This sense of safety allows her to relax into the present moment, be fully herself, and connect on a deeper level. Emotional safety isn't about agreeing with everything she says or pretending to be perfect. It's about being consistently honest, kind, and respectful. It's built when a man listens without interrupting, asks questions that show real curiosity, and responds to her emotions with empathy rather than defensiveness or dismissal. For example, if she expresses hesitation or uncertainty about physical intimacy, the emotionally intelligent man doesn't try to persuade her. Instead, he validates her feelings, lets her know there's no pressure, and continues to show affection in non-sexual ways. This kind of emotional maturity creates a psychological signal that tells her, "You're safe here. You're not just wanted for what you can give. I'm here for who you are." That signal lowers her defenses and allows desire to grow naturally rather than being coerced. Emotional safety also means being reliable, following through on what you say, showing up consistently, and not turning cold or distant the moment things don't go your way. It's in the little moments, like how you respond to her when she's upset, or how you handle her vulnerability, that she subconsciously decides whether she can trust you with her body. This is often why physical attraction alone doesn't lead to intimacy, because without emotional safety it feels risky, even if the chemistry is there. Women are biologically and socially conditioned to scan for threats, not just physical ones, but emotional ones too. If she feels she might be judged, discarded, or misunderstood after intimacy, her guard goes up, even if she's interested. On the flip side, if a man makes her feel accepted exactly as she is, no masks, no pretending, that emotional connection becomes a green light for deeper intimacy. It also helps if the man isn't outcome dependent. When he expresses desire in a way that isn't tied to a demand or expectation, but rather as an honest expression of attraction, it makes the experience feel safe and mutually chosen rather than pressured. Emotional safety is not about being overly cautious or afraid to make a move. It's about being attuned. When a man can create that kind of environment through emotional intelligence, presence, and authentic communication, intimacy stops being something he has to ask for in a formal way. It becomes something she naturally gravitates toward because she feels held, seen, and genuinely desired for more than just her body. Building anticipation rather than applying pressure is a subtle but powerful approach when it comes to asking a woman for intimacy, because it taps into the natural rhythm of desire and allows attraction to develop organically rather than being forced or rushed. Anticipation works by engaging the mind and emotions in a playful, teasing way that keeps interest alive without overwhelming her or making her feel cornered. This is different from pressure, which often creates anxiety, discomfort, and resistance, causing her to pull away or shut down emotionally. When you build anticipation, you create an atmosphere where intimacy feels like a shared secret, waiting to be unlocked, something that excites rather than intimidates. It involves using body language, tone of voice, light touches, meaningful eye contact, and suggestive but respectful language that hints at what could come next without spelling everything out or demanding immediate action. This slow build lets her imagination engage, which is key because desire is not purely physical, it's also psychological. The anticipation turns the experience into an emotional journey, where every glance, every smile, every subtle gesture carries meaning and heightens the connection between the two of you. Rather than directly asking for intimacy in a way that might feel blunt or transactional, you invite her into the possibility of something more, by showing your interest consistently but gently, allowing her to feel the growing tension and curiosity on her own terms. This approach respects her autonomy and gives her the chance to become an active participant in the unfolding dynamic, which increases her comfort and willingness to engage. Anticipation also involves patience, which is crucial because rushing signals desperation or lack of control, which can be unattractive and off-putting. When you show you can wait, and that you value the emotional and physical connection more than just the end goal, you demonstrate confidence and self-respect. This calm, measured pace allows her to process her feelings and signals that you are attentive to her boundaries and desires. The art of anticipation means you create a dance of yes and maybe, rather than no and stop, where every interaction deepens her interest without making her feel pressured to make immediate decisions. It's important to recognize that anticipation is not manipulation or playing games. It's about creating an inviting emotional space that naturally draws her closer. By maintaining playful flirtation and genuine connection, you keep the mood light and enjoyable, which reduces any anxiety or fear around intimacy. When anticipation is done well, the moment intimacy finally happens feels like a shared victory, a mutual expression of desire that is being carefully nurtured rather than forced. This not only makes the experience more meaningful, but also lays the groundwork for a stronger emotional bond afterward. In contrast, applying pressure, whether through insistent requests, guilt, or impatience, breaks the delicate balance and often causes her to withdraw. So understanding how to build anticipation means recognizing the importance of pacing, subtlety, and respect in your interactions. It's about letting desire grow in a natural, playful way that makes both of you eager to explore deeper connection when the time is right, rather than pushing for it prematurely and risking the relationship before it truly begins. Confidence without entitlement is a crucial mindset to adopt when approaching a woman for intimacy, because it strikes the perfect balance between self-assurance and respect, which creates an attractive and comfortable dynamic. Confidence means you know your own value and desires clearly and you express them openly without hesitation or shame, but entitlement means you assume you deserve her attention, affection, or intimacy simply because you want it, which can make her feel pressured, objectified, or even disrespected. When a man approaches intimacy with confidence, he demonstrates that he is secure enough in himself not to need validation from her. And this security is inherently appealing because it signals emotional strength and maturity. However, if that confidence turns into entitlement, if he acts as though intimacy is owed to him or expected in return for his efforts, he undermines the entire connection by making the interaction transactional rather than genuine. Women can sense entitlement very quickly, and it triggers their defenses because it threatens their autonomy and dignity. True confidence is grounded in the understanding that intimacy is a mutual choice, not a right, and that her willingness to share that closeness is something to be cherished, not demanded. This kind of confidence comes through in how a man communicates. He expresses desire clearly but respectfully, he listens to her cues, and he responds thoughtfully rather than reactively. He maintains eye contact without staring, speaks with calm conviction rather than desperation, and respects her boundaries without questioning or pushing them. Importantly, confidence without entitlement also means accepting a no or hesitation without taking it personally or reacting negatively. This reaction shows emotional resilience and a commitment to building trust over time rather than seeking immediate gratification. Moreover, confidence is not about being rigid or inflexible. It's about being adaptable and present in the moment, able to read the situation and respond authentically rather than forcing a predetermined outcome. When a man carries himself with this balanced confidence, it creates an atmosphere where a woman feels safe and valued, which naturally invites intimacy rather than shutting it down. Entitlement, on the other hand, communicates that the man sees intimacy as a goal to be achieved rather than a shared experience to be enjoyed, and this shifts the dynamic from collaboration to demand. In practical terms, confidence without entitlement looks like making your interest known with a smile, a light touch, or a sincere compliment, then stepping back and allowing her space to respond in her own time and way. It means being comfortable with silence and uncertainty, trusting that genuine connection cannot be rushed or forced. It also means not measuring your worth or masculinity based on whether she agrees to intimacy, but rather recognizing that your value comes from who you are as a person, regardless of external validation. This mindset creates a magnetic energy that draws her in naturally, because it shows you respect yourself and her equally. When you embody confidence without entitlement, you communicate that intimacy is a beautiful possibility to explore together, not a prize to be won or a debt to be collected. And this subtle shift in perspective transforms the entire interaction into one based on mutual desire, respect, and genuine connection. Leading with connection rather than expectation is essential when approaching intimacy, because it shifts the focus from a fixed outcome to the quality of the relationship and emotional bond you share, creating a space where closeness can develop naturally and genuinely. When a man approaches a woman with an expectation, whether explicit or implicit, that intimacy should happen because he wants it or believes it is owed, it often creates pressure and resistance, which can shut down attraction quickly. Instead, leading with connection means prioritizing the emotional experience, focusing on how you make her feel in your presence, and valuing the time spent together beyond the goal of physical intimacy. This approach acknowledges that intimacy is not just a physical act but a deep extension of emotional closeness, trust, and mutual vulnerability. By cultivating a strong connection first, you create a foundation where both people feel safe to express their desires honestly, without fear of judgment or rejection. Leading with connection involves being fully present, listening actively, and engaging with genuine curiosity about her thoughts, feelings, and experiences. It means sharing parts of yourself openly as well, allowing her to see who you truly are, which invites her to do the same. This mutual openness nurtures intimacy on an emotional level, which in turn naturally paves the way for physical closeness. When you operate from a place of connection, your communication becomes more authentic and less transactional, which helps break down barriers and build trust. Rather than making statements or requests that put her on the spot or create a sense of obligation, you express your feelings and intentions in a way that invites collaboration and choice. For example, instead of saying, "I want to sleep with you," you might say, "I really enjoy being with you, and when you're ready, I'd love to explore being closer with you." This subtle difference conveys respect and care, which are crucial for deepening intimacy. Furthermore, leading with connection requires patience and the willingness to accept where she is emotionally, even if that means moving more slowly or adjusting your expectations. It's about recognizing that intimacy is a process, not a checklist or deadline, and that rushing it undermines the very connection you're trying to build. When the focus is on connection, even setbacks or moments of hesitation become opportunities to demonstrate understanding and compassion, rather than frustration or disappointment. This approach also encourages vulnerability on your part, as it means being willing to show your true feelings and desires without hiding behind bravado or manipulation. Vulnerability is magnetic because it invites trust and signals that you are emotionally available, which is what many women look for in a partner when considering intimacy. Ultimately, leading with connection rather than expectation creates a positive feedback loop, where emotional closeness fosters physical desire, and physical closeness reinforces emotional bonding. It allows intimacy to be a shared journey rather than a one-sided request, making the experience more fulfilling and meaningful for both partners. By prioritizing connection, you not only increase the chances of intimacy happening naturally, but also build a stronger relationship foundation that can support deeper levels of closeness and commitment over time. Mirroring her pace is a subtle yet incredibly effective way to build trust and foster intimacy, because it demonstrates emotional attunement, respect for her boundaries, and genuine interest in her experience, which are all critical factors in creating a safe and inviting environment for closeness to develop. When you mirror her pace, you are essentially matching the tempo at which she is comfortable progressing in the relationship, whether that refers to emotional openness, physical touch, or the progression toward intimacy. This means paying close attention to her verbal and non-verbal cues, such as her tone of voice, body language, the speed of her responses, and the level of enthusiasm she shows, then adjusting your own behavior accordingly to sync with hers. If she is cautious, slow to reveal personal details, or hesitant to engage in physical affection, mirroring her pace involves respecting those limits without rushing or pressuring her, instead offering consistent warmth, patience, and reassurance. By doing this, you communicate that her feelings and comfort are your priority, which fosters a sense of emotional safety and trust. This trust is crucial because it allows her to relax, lower her defenses, and gradually open up more freely, which naturally increases the likelihood of intimacy developing authentically. On the other hand, if she is more open, expressive, and willing to engage in deeper conversations or physical closeness sooner, mirroring her pace means you lean into that energy, matching her level of engagement and enthusiasm in a way that feels mutually exciting and consensual. This back and forth dynamic creates a powerful connection where both partners feel seen and validated, which is the foundation of meaningful intimacy. Mirroring her pace also signals emotional intelligence, because it shows that you are not solely focused on your own desires or timeline, but are attentive to her needs and signals. This attentiveness is deeply attractive because it contrasts sharply with impatience or entitlement, which can create resistance and shut down desire. When a man can pick up on these subtle cues and respond with empathy and flexibility, he demonstrates that he values the relationship as a shared experience rather than a goal to be achieved at any cost. Practically speaking, mirroring her pace can mean different things depending on the situation. For example, if she takes a long time to respond to texts or avoids deep conversations early on, instead of interpreting that as disinterest, you accept it as her natural rhythm and give her the space she needs, which reduces pressure and shows respect. If she tends to initiate light physical contact but not more intimate touch, you mirror by reciprocating gently rather than escalating too quickly. Over time, this calibrated approach creates a safe container where she feels empowered to express herself honestly without fear of judgment or rejection. Importantly, mirroring her pace does not mean you suppress your own desires or avoid honest communication. Rather, it means balancing your wishes with an awareness of where she is emotionally and physically, then finding ways to align your actions so both of you feel comfortable and connected. This requires a level of patience and self-control that signals maturity and emotional stability, qualities that foster deeper attraction and trust. Additionally, mirroring her pace helps prevent misunderstandings and conflict because it reduces the likelihood of overwhelming her or crossing boundaries prematurely. When both partners feel they are moving at a shared tempo, the relationship flows more naturally and harmoniously. This synchronization builds a rhythm that makes intimacy feel like a mutual dance rather than a solo pursuit, enhancing the quality of connection and making the experience more fulfilling for both people involved. By consciously mirroring her pace, you also cultivate a mindset of curiosity and openness, which encourages ongoing communication and adaptability as the relationship evolves. This flexibility is vital because people's comfort levels and desires change over time, and being attuned to those shifts strengthens the bond and keeps intimacy alive and thriving. In essence, mirroring her pace is about honoring her humanity, respecting her autonomy, and meeting her where she is emotionally and physically. It transforms the pursuit of intimacy from a potentially stressful negotiation into a collaborative journey built on trust, empathy, and mutual desire, making it far more likely that intimacy will emerge naturally, joyfully, and sustainably. Asking for intimacy with vulnerability rather than manipulation is a profound and transformative approach that fundamentally changes the dynamic between two people because it invites genuine connection, honesty, and trust instead of coercion or control, which are often the hidden killers of meaningful closeness. Vulnerability means being willing to express your true feelings, desires, and fears openly and honestly, without hiding behind tactics, pressure, or emotional games designed to get a specific response. When a man approaches intimacy with vulnerability, he is not demanding or expecting anything from the woman. Instead, he is sharing his authentic self, in a way that honors both his own needs and hers. This openness creates an emotional atmosphere where she feels safe to do the same, which lays the groundwork for intimacy to develop naturally and mutually. Manipulation, on the other hand, is an attempt to control or influence someone's behavior through indirect, deceptive, or coercive means, such as guilt-tripping, playing hard to get, withholding affection, or using psychological tricks designed to make her feel obligated. While manipulation might seem to work in the short term, it ultimately erodes trust, damages respect, and builds resentment, which makes any intimacy that follows feel hollow or unsustainable. Vulnerability rejects all of that by inviting a different kind of power dynamic, one based on mutual respect and emotional truth, rather than dominance or game playing. So when a man is vulnerable, he might say something like, "I feel really close to you and I want to be with you in a deeper way, but I also want to make sure you're comfortable and that this is something you want too." This kind of statement is not only honest but also shows that he values her autonomy and is willing to be patient and responsive to her feelings. Vulnerability also means being prepared for any response, whether it's enthusiastic agreement, hesitation, or even a no, without reacting defensively or trying to change her mind. This emotional openness and acceptance are magnetic because they demonstrate maturity, confidence, and a sincere desire for a true connection, rather than just physical gratification. Importantly, vulnerability requires self-awareness and courage because it exposes your inner needs and uncertainties, which can feel risky in a culture that often equates vulnerability with weakness. Yet paradoxically, this courage is what makes vulnerability so attractive. It signals strength, emotional intelligence, and a willingness to be seen fully and honestly. It also encourages her to drop her own guard and reciprocate that openness, creating a feedback loop of trust and closeness that deepens the bond. Approaching intimacy with vulnerability rather than manipulation means that every step forward is a shared decision, an act of mutual consent and desire, rather than a goal to be achieved by pressure or persuasion. This mutuality transforms the experience into something deeply fulfilling and respectful, where both partners feel valued and heard. It also builds a foundation for long-term emotional and physical intimacy that is resilient because it is rooted in authenticity rather than tactics. Furthermore, vulnerability fosters better communication because it invites ongoing dialogue about needs, boundaries, and feelings, which prevents misunderstandings and resentment from building up. When both people feel safe to express themselves honestly, intimacy becomes not just an act but a continuous process of discovery and connection. In contrast, manipulation breaks down communication and often leads to confusion, mistrust, and emotional distance. By choosing vulnerability, a man shows that he is not only interested in intimacy for his own satisfaction, but that he respects her as a whole person with her own desires and boundaries. This respect elevates the interaction from something transactional or superficial into a meaningful exchange that honors both partners' humanity. Ultimately, asking for intimacy with vulnerability is about embracing the unpredictability of genuine connection, trusting that when you are authentic and open, you invite the kind of closeness that lasts and feels deeply satisfying on every level. It's not a trick or a tactic, but a way of relating that honors both yourself and the woman you desire, creating a foundation for intimacy that is real, respectful, and profoundly rewarding. In conclusion, the key to asking a woman for intimacy lies not in tricks or pressure, but in cultivating emotional safety, building genuine anticipation, embodying confident respect without entitlement, leading with authentic connection, mirroring her pace thoughtfully, and approaching the moment with vulnerability rather than manipulation. When these principles come together, intimacy transforms from a goal or demand into a natural mutual experience grounded in trust, respect, and sincere desire. By focusing on creating a space where she feels truly seen, valued, and safe, you invite a deeper closeness that benefits both partners and sets the stage for a fulfilling, meaningful connection. This is not about clever lines or forcing moments, but about embodying maturity, empathy, and honesty, qualities that inspire real intimacy and lasting bonds.